Welcome to Connection Corner, where you write reviews and we read them back to you. So if you want to hear your words read on this very podcast, go into the app where you are listening to us right now and write us a review. And maybe next week, yours will be the one that we read. So what do we got today?
Okay, so this one actually is like the newest one that we have. It's from Kristen STR, and it says, "My favorite podcast!" Caitlin and Sophia have been key contributors on my journey to motherhood and trying to conceive my second. Being faced with the recent diagnosis of PCOS and secondary infertility has been such a whirlwind, along with figuring out motherhood. But with their help, I've made so many changes to my physical lifestyle, emotional health, and I know that when I do finally conceive, a lot of it will be because of them. Their astronomical knowledge of fertility is so eye-opening, and they make me feel seen as a mother and someone struggling with infertility. When I turn them on, it's like having coffee with the girls. So thank you, Caitlin and Sophia.
Oh my gosh, Kristen, that's exactly the vibe we're going for. Like you just used our exact words. Like, we want you to feel like you have two friends that actually have college degrees and 20 years experience between them dealing with these things. And that's exactly what you just said we're doing. So yay, that feels so good. Thank you so much, Kristen.
All right, welcome to another episode of Food Freedom and Fertility. I am so excited because this is the season opener for our season 4 of Food Freedom and Fertility. It's really like 4.5 plus a really long season at the beginning because we didn't used to do seasons. But Sophia Pavia and Caitlin Johnson, your registered dietitians and best friends, are hanging out with you to talk about fertility. And we have 26 episodes queued up in this season to rock your fertility world and educate you, empower you. We're so excited to be here.
This is our best season yet. Like, this is, I feel like, where we're finally starting to arrive as podcast hosts. And what I mean by that is not like we're these like grand orators now, but like I feel like we finally understand more about you. Like, what do you want? What do you want to hear? What are you wondering? What are the questions that you have that you don't even really know how to formulate the question, but once you listen to the episode, you go, yes, thank God, this is exactly what I've been wrestling with in my heart and mind, but haven't been able to like reach out to someone because I can't even really put the words to it. But now I can. And not only that, I have a few action steps to take to start moving out of this place of being so stuck. So that is what this season is going to be for you. We have curated it especially for you.
I'm so excited. So today we are knocking this season off because Sophia's about to pick up golf.
I am.
Chip.
2025, I'm going to be golfing.
I love that. We're going to hit this one off with kind of like a two-parter on popular trends we've seen in 2024 that I'm sure are going to be all over the fitness scene in a month and health scene. And certainly it's bleeding into the fertility scene. And we're going to hit it off with probably like, if you could see a pendulum swing really far one way and veganism was that side of the pendulum, we're going to swing it way the other side now.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the pros and cons of the carnivore diet for women who are trying to conceive. But actually, can I tell a quick story before we go into the carnivore diet? Okay, so do you guys remember over this season break, we had Jenny come on and talk about her fertility story? Mm-hmm. So Jenny's husband's name is John, and he has a very distinctive look. Like, he wears this one kind of sunglasses and has this little cowlick in the back of his hair that sticks up. He's a very handsome guy. And I just saw him walk across my sidewalk in front of where I'm recording. And so Caitlin and I had a little break where she had to like reboot her computer. So I went running outside and I was like, John! And he turns around and he goes, oh, no, not John. And it was not John. It was just some guy walking down the street. But it was a little bit of a connection. And it's also funny because John's personality, he's like the most outgoing guy you'll ever meet. And if you ever walk in front of John's house and he knows you, he's going to come busting out of the door and be like, Sophia! And he's going to be like, oh, my chickens laid these eggs. Also, look, my dog has a new trick. And like, he's just so personable and friendly, and absolutely is the guy that will bust out of his front door to come talk to you as you walk down the street. And so I just try to do the same thing. It was just some guy carrying two bags full of cardboard boxes. So I don't know what that guy was up to. Maybe he's going to go build a fort or something, but uh, not
But he's
John.
not
That's
John.
I thought I was going to have like a cool story for, like, oh, connection. Nope, stranger.
No,
So that just happened.
I
All
love
right.
that.
So pros and cons of the carnivore diet, getting into the meat of this episode.
Pun intended.
Hey, Food Freedom and Fertility family, it's Sophia introducing Fertility Cloud. High treatment costs can be daunting, but here's some good news. 80% of Fertility Cloud patients have gotten pregnant for under $2,000 after just 5 months of treatment. Starting your family doesn't need to come with a huge price tag. Fertility Cloud virtual consultations mean you can talk to them from the comfort of your couch. They create personalized plans for men and women, whether it's ovarian stimulation with Clomid or Letrozole, Ovidrel trigger shots, guidance on male fertility, or even weight management support with medication. As a special for Food Freedom and Fertility listeners, get $50 off your initial medical doctor consultation. With meds delivered in just a day or two, unlimited support for your questions, and free follow-ups when needed, they're here to make your path to parenthood smoother and more affordable. Ready to start? Visit myfertilitycloud.com and enter Food Freedom, one word, at checkout.
Can
Oh,
you
yeah.
describe what the carnivore diet is? Because you've heard this term before, but you heard it in like 7th grade biology, right?
Right?
We were talking
Yes.
about the animals.
Yeah, we're talking about dinosaurs, right? Like when you're like learning about the velociraptor, you learn that this animal is a carnivore. And we learn the same thing when we hear about like big cats, bears, wolves, these like predator animals, sharks in the sea. Like this is what we learn about. And so when you think of carnivore, you think of like big animal, big sharp biting teeth, predator. And I think that's part of its appeal. Like, I think some people look at themselves and look at what they've allowed themselves to become, and they feel very, I don't know, sort of powerless in life, and they don't really like some of their choices, and they feel kind of stuck, and they want to resemble these carnivorous predator animals in some way, and they want to be big and strong and intimidating. I say this mostly because I see this mostly in like the man culture. Is there like this carnivore diet is like suddenly the thing? I think they really want to be a velociraptor. So they gravitate towards this, right? And so that is, not completely inaccurate from what the carnivore diet is. For humans, this is a diet based almost completely on eating meat and protein from animals. Like, depending on the version, you're also eating like eggs and
Eggs. Mhm.
cheese, maybe some other like dairy products, butter, things like that. But it's based primarily on having the vast majority of your calories coming from animal foods with the mentality, this is what I hear a lot of times. Actually, I had someone talking to me about this yesterday, that plants have an immune system. And that immune system is various chemical compounds that this plant makes that cause animals to not want to eat it, whether they make it taste bitter, has like a mild toxic effect, can cause other issues within the herbivore eating this plant, cause issues in their body, so they don't want to eat it again. And these compounds within the plants cause problems in the human body because I guess you can tell how much I believe in this, right? By the way, I'm talking
Mhm.
like that we're not made to be eating these plants, that we're supposed to be eating an all animal food based diet.
I mean, it rings a little bit of like when paleo was starting out and the original
Totally.
paleo thing. Like, what did hunter gatherers eat back then? This is
Hmm.
essentially the premise that we were hunters. The gathering wasn't
Hmm.
so much the thing. It was like you ate the meat that you had, and that's what you had.
And that was pretty much it. You ate
Mhm.
meat. And so this has now been It's just the new trend, that this is the miracle cure. You're going to remove all the inflammation from your body. Your blood sugar is going to be awesome. Your hormones will be perfect. You will be lean and strong and sleep well and recover easily. And your mental health problems are going to be greatly impacted. Like you'll have way less anxiety, much happier in life, because these plants are what are gumming up the works of your dopamine receptors in your brain, and they're causing this inflammation in your ability to feel these happy chemicals in your body, and so they're not working and you're having all these autoimmune issues. And the carnivore diet is looked at as like, this is a way out of that cycle, and this is the way to feel better always.
It's kind of interesting too from the perspective of like you hear these things from, you might even call them like diet evangelists, where it's like, I did
Yeah.
this and then look how sexy I became. I did this and look
Mm-hmm.
how strong I became. I did this and look at what chronic health condition I suppressed or healed myself from because I did
Yes.
this. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the loud people and they
Mm-hmm.
are the flashy people, right? Like that lady that
Yes.
was the first lady I saw do this maybe 9 months ago on my Instagram had the hardest stomach. You could have washed anything on her stomach. It was a
Great
washboard.
cheese across those abs.
Right. But she also honestly didn't look healthy. Because
Mm-hmm.
she didn't have a vibrance to her, but she was slim and
Mm-hmm.
strong. But you're not hearing so much from the people that are like, well, I did it for a week and couldn't poop, or I did it
Yes.
and my energy levels went through the dumps and it really interfered with my life when I'm socializing with others. So
Mm-hmm.
you're only going to hear about these things by and large by the people that do it and see this great transformation.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And that's another part of why talking to a dietitian about these things can be so helpful, because there are lots of people that are nutrition experts in one particular thing, whether that's they're the plant-based guy or they're the carnivore guy or the Atkins guy, the low carb guy, the alkaline diet guy or gal, whatever they
Mhm.
are, flexible dieting, like, take your pick. There's half a million diets you could choose from. There are people out there that have really done a deep dive on that one thing, had a lot of experience on that one thing, and so they think this is the thing. When you talk to someone who has been forced by academia to study all the things and compare them all, whether or not your special interest is low carb or veganism, you're going to study both and you're going to write papers on both and you're going to work with real life people who are doing both and come out of it very well rounded. That's sort of what Caitlin and I have had to do and what we want to do, truly. I mean, I make it sound like it's some slog through the mud. Like we chose to do this. We actually like these kinds of things. Um, but that's really the advantage of working with someone like she or I, and not just somebody that's decided this is my special interest in nutrition. And so I'm going to just look at this thing. We've been sort of forced to look at all of it. So we're much more well rounded.
Hey, friends, we're taking a break from this episode so I can share with you a little more about one of our sponsors, Fullwell. Fullwell is a reproductive health company offering superior nutritional supplements that are made without compromise to support women and men throughout their reproductive journey. I have taken Fullwell's prenatals, their fish oil, and have literally tried every product they've released, and I stand behind this recommendation with my whole heart. One of my favorite things to recommend to clients is their fertility trio. This includes their egg and sperm quality supplement, their women's prenatal, and fish oil. This helps proactively support you getting ready to conceive. This trio includes things like CoQ10, ashwagandha, and NAC. It makes me think of a life vest. You don't want to go into pregnancy without these foundational supports. And if you've been struggling while trying to conceive, this is the time to upgrade your prenatal fertility game and check out Fullwell. Use code FFF20 today to get 20% off your first order. So, when somebody is interacting with information, which is primarily going to be either like this relative showed up at Thanksgiving table and said this to you, and now you watched them only eat turkey and ham at the Thanksgiving table, or you saw it on Instagram. But in either case, like if somebody comes to you, Sophie, and is like, what are the benefits of the carnivore diet? Let's not talk about drawbacks or
Mhm.
critiques that we have about it, but like, why scientifically would somebody think this is beneficial and a good thing for me to try next?
Oh, okay. So many reasons. Okay. First of all, meat is so nutritionally dense, extremely nutritionally dense. It is, I think, the most nutritionally dense food possible. You are getting way more B vitamins, minerals. You're getting so many hard to get nutritional pieces. Like you're getting lots of protein, which your body needs a lot of. The fat is baked right in. You have got lots of iron, you've got lots of zinc and selenium, you've got lots of B12 that you can't really find anywhere else. Like all of these very important nutrients you find in abundance in meat. So, this is one reason that this is, I mean, it's not wrong. This is a very healthy food to be eating while you are trying to conceive. And another thing that is also not wrong is when it comes to price, like what is the cheapest way to get a lot of these nutrients? Again, meat wins. It is the least expensive way to get all of these more difficult to get nutrients. Like if you want to try to avoid meat and get everything you need, you better whip out your pocketbook, sister, because that is going to be so expensive. And that's why we see all these influencers who are purely plant based eating like weird kinds of like moss and like these special sorts of fungus that are like grown in these special conditions to have a lot of this thing that you need. And it's a very expensive, it gets very expensive if you're actually trying to be nutritionally complete while doing it. Whereas eating meat, the common folk can just walk to any grocery store and find easily a way to get all their nutrition needs met if you're going to include meat.
So, talk to me about inflammation, blood sugar stability, and like
Yeah.
chronic disease, and where that overlap may like be alluring to somebody struggling with fertility challenges.
Yes. And, the fertility inflammation link is extremely strong. And we talk about that all the time on this podcast. And it's not a lie to say that plants have inflammatory compounds in them. They absolutely do. Plants do have immune systems. They do have compounds and chemicals in them that make your body have to react in a certain way in order to process that nutrient out. Like, for instance, there's phytate, right? This is a really common considered anti-nutrient. I don't really like that word, but if you kind of look at it from that perspective, it is a chemical found in spinach, leafy greens, coffee, berries, like anything that's like that dark color, make a stain on your shirt kind of thing. Um, there are phytates in there, and phytates really do block your ability to absorb certain nutrients. They do activate certain parts of your immune system to make sure that these phytates don't just fly unchecked through your bloodstream and mess with other processes that are going on in your body. Like that is very real. And I'm trying to explain this without saying why that carnivore diet kind of gets it wrong, but like that is a piece of it is you are avoiding those compounds by not eating plants. And I don't know. I'm just going to say it. Okay. I don't really know how to separate it. Like for people who have autoimmune diseases, for people that have chronic digestive issues, for people that are in a really sick and weakened state, taking a break from some of these more difficult to digest and absorb foods so that you can heal is not always a bad idea. And it is very true that people with chronic medical conditions see relief when they begin to eat this way. That is real. And I'm not taking away from the people that say, look, I was chronically depressed on 4 different meds, could not pull myself out of it, started eating this way, dropped the meds one by one, and now I'm feeling so much better. Like that is real and happens to people, very real. But I don't see that as, oh, so this is the way that everyone should be eating. I see that as this person was very sick and they needed special treatment in order to get better. Almost as though if you had a torn ACL in your knee, having surgery to reattach it and going through physical therapy where you don't put weight on that knee. You're not doing lateral movements. You're working up to be able to using the stairs again. You
Mm-hmm.
need to do that in order for that injury to heal. Am I going to go out onto the soccer field for a bunch of healthy 16-year-olds are playing and say, hey, stop doing these lateral movements, stop running? You need to do these itty bitty little physical therapy heel slides that's for your knee to be healthy? No, that's what someone needs to do when they're in a very acute disease state. That's not a healthy 16-year-old. That's not just every American walking down the street. And I know I'm supposed to like separate out the pros and cons, but that's really a pro is that for people who are very sick and having specific health problems, eating this way for a time can be therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of the message I'm trying to get at.
And I would say, like, there's an argument for almost any type of diet, a
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic application. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that because it has a therapeutic application, that it should be applied and tried by everyone. So,
Exactly.
when we're talking about a carnivore diet, what are the biggest drawbacks
In my
in the
opinion,
context of fertility?
yeah, the biggest drawback in fertility, I mean, oh my God, there's so many. The biggest drawback in fertility is that you are not going to get your fiber needs met. You are not going to be getting the amount of vitamin C you need to be getting. You are not going to be getting all of the antioxidants that you need to be getting. There are going to be some major gaps in your nutritional needs while you're trying to conceive. And that is probably the biggest issue that I take with the carnivore diet is that you need antioxidants. You need fiber. You need vitamin C, like in other B vitamins that you're actually not going to find in meat. Like
Mhm.
you need these things. Your body is made to use these things. And something that you have to keep in mind with these carnivores, like wolves, dogs, bears, they make their own vitamin C out of glucose. Their body has a process within their liver where they take a glucose molecule and change it ever so slightly, and it becomes ascorbic acid, vitamin C. They can make their own vitamin C. They have a much shorter digestive system than we do. So they digest and move through all this meat without the need for fiber. They have a totally different metabolic process, the way that their body breaks things down. They have a different stomach shape, different stomach acidity. They are different beings than you and I, and their nutritional needs are different. So I know it seems really appealing to be a lion and not a sheep, to be a lone wolf. Like we look at these animals and see these like grand spiritual connections or something like that. And that's fine to take certain pieces of that and maybe want to integrate that into your personality. But biologically, you're not a bear. You're not a lion. You're not a dog. You're not a wolf. You're a person and your body is different. And so you're not going to be able to use, digest, assimilate, excrete the way that you need to because you're just fundamentally biologically different than these animals.
So I'm not going to take us on like a really long spiritual departure, but Sophia made a great point that we are humans and we are not wolves or these other carnivorous animals. And if you believe that you're a human and God created you this way, you probably believe in Adam and Eve, who were placed in a garden. And what were they told they could eat in the garden?
Fruits and vegetables and plants.
We were literally designed to live in a garden. So to think that you can exist without the benefits of plant life is wild. And a carnivorous person might say, well, I'm eating animals that eat those plants. And great, you are. That is a true statement. But if you share common beliefs that Sophia and I have, we're also approaching this from the perspective that we believe we were designed to eat those things.
And so when we're in a well state, we will be eating these things. Like that
Yeah.
that's what you're made to be.
There will be times where you are sick and you may need to go to one end of a spectrum or another in lots of things in life, not just food. However, from a perspective of what were we designed to eat, I mean, this argument works for them if they don't believe that and kind of draw their belief system from a different belief system that Sophia and I hold.
Just to play devil's advocate here, I've heard people kind of talk about this, and their statement is like, well, after the fall of Adam, the ground became cursed, and these plants are no longer the same. And they came up, they had to have these like immune systems and they had to fight for their own survival, just like we do. And we have to fight for our survival. And so the plants are different now.
Well, and so are we. But that
Mhm.
doesn't change how we were designed. I mean, I think you could continue the argument that they weren't told to eat the animals that they just named, right? And like,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to take us down a whole philosophical thing, but I'm just saying from my perspective, if you're telling me the only thing I can eat is meat and meat products for the rest of my life, I don't agree with the premise of the diet that we were originally carnivores. Like we weren't.
I agree. And are you going to tell me, I mean, coming from the same Christian or Jewish background, like, okay, so these scouts from the tribe with Moses that were wandering in the wilderness, they go to this promised land of milk and honey. And what do they come back with?
All these
Meat?
huge
No,
all these huge
huge
plants.
plants. They
Great.
come back with
Yeah.
sheaves of grain that are like so big and tall, grapes the size of your head, pomegranates and apples and raisins and all of these fruits and vegetables and grains. And I don't know that God would have made this perfect land for people to go into with all of this produce if it were not supposed to be eaten. Wouldn't they be like, the livestock is unbelievable, the grass is green, like eat the animals that eat the grass? That if that were what we were supposed to be eating. And while we're at it, listeners, Jesus is called the bread of life. If we were not to be eating bread, why would he be called that? Wouldn't he be called the meat of life?
It's a
You see
very
what I'm
good
saying here?
point. I know we're going to get comments and things that you didn't come here for faith and you didn't this and that, but I'm just telling you, you're not, we like
But
Sophia
we're the
and
ones
I.
with the microphone, so you're going to listen.
Well, we have an entire episode or a few that are coming your way that have a little bit of a faith base. And I I would not want to walk a fertility struggle without God. So
Mhm.
if you are also personally struggling with your faith, I just want you to know that this is a time where you can really turn to God and God will meet you. And he has more for you. And I think I'll leave it at that for this moment.
And even if you don't believe, like maybe you do believe something different than like the creation story and like the Hebrew Bible and things like that, and that's fine. And we're just using this as, a piece of why we don't really love this through the human body. There's plenty of other reasons too.
Yeah.
Why don't you go look in the mirror, open your mouth wide, and tell me about them flat teeth you got in the back there? That's not made for meat, is it?
It's not
No,
made for
siree,
me.
Bob. Those are made to chew plants, molars, just like what you would find in an elephant's mouth or a cow's
Mhm.
mouth or even a manatee, like these
And yet,
herbivore.
And yet we have teeth that are made that do better with flesh, right? Like we have both. And so in most bodies, both are needed. And I would
Yes.
challenge you to have a healthy pregnancy eating only meat and animal products. You're really going to struggle. And we're not just trying to get pregnant here. If there's something that you're doing that really helps you get pregnant, like 99% of the time, that's something you probably want to continue doing in pregnancy,
Mhm.
with the exception of some medications or supplements, but dietary wise, for the most part, what you did pre-pregnancy is what you should continue doing.
Yeah.
And
There are some things that we maybe need to do. Like we had Amy Raup on here talking about the egg quality diet. And even that is omnivorous. There are plants and animals in that diet. And that's probably the most restrictive diet that I've ever recommended for somebody who's trying to conceive. And even in that acute state where we are diving in 100 days to get your eggs in a better position, come hell or high water, and we're really going to do something hard, that is even there's an omnivorous way of eating. And
Mhm.
so it's just that brings me to my next point of why I don't love it. And it's extremely restrictive and in such very difficult to stick to unless you're seeing a huge reward. And
Mhm.
oftentimes a little more energy, better sleep, not really a huge enough reward to keep doing something. And I think that's what we see a lot of times in the people that are like big proponents of these diets is they probably did see a life-changing result.
Mhm.
It's almost like the opposite of have you ever like it's gross, but like eaten something and turns out you got food poisoning from it. And
Mm.
so you spend all night tasting a
Yeah, the
sesame
thing.
bagel or a bean
Right.
burrito or whatever it was, and you loathe it. You're like, never,
Never wanna
everyone
eat
has a
again.
story like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe it's like, I'll never drink tequila again, or I'll never eat a Taco Bell again, or whatever. You had such an awful experience and it caused your body so much pain. You're never going back to that.
Everyone has the Taco Bell story. That's like a
Yeah.
very
Common. I
everyone.
don't know
If
what
you've
they're doing
eaten at Taco Bell, does doesn't matter. You don't go back unless you're my brother.
Oh my God. So,
Unless you
sidebar, one of my former clients told me that she was like, her husband was on like a work trip across the country and was going to be like gone for a week. And she saw this immense purchase at Taco Bell. Like he spent like $100 at Taco Bell. And she was like, what the hell did you buy? Did you like take everyone out to dinner at Taco Bell? And he was like, no, no, I was just getting food for the week. So not only was he going to eat Taco Bell for the week, but he was going to refrigerate it and reheat it and eat Taco Bell throughout the week. She was like disgusted. I was like,
was this a
okay,
fertility client? And then he's gonna
it,
come home
it
and
was.
shoot you up with so much crap.
Fill your womb with just Taco Bell babies. Awful.
He's spewing taco spermies.
Oh, gross. So, yeah. Well, the point of this story being that you've had a bad reaction, not a bad reaction, but a really bad association with a food before, right? Your
Mhm.
brain is trying to protect you. It can also do that the other way around. If you are feeling so much better, life changingly better, like the gal who was on 4 different depression medications, still couldn't get herself together, started
Mhm.
the carnivore diet, and within 3 months was off of her medications and finally able to experience joy for the first time in 10 years. That is a significant improvement in her life to where, going through something as hellacious as intractable depression to living a normal, joyful life, yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to say no thank you to grandma's rolls on Thanksgiving. Going to be
Mhm.
a lot easier to say no thank you to pasta or to fruit or to salad or to whatever other foods you've ever enjoyed in your life if you have such an overwhelmingly positive feedback situation. Your brain will be like, this is awesome. Keep eating this way at all costs.
Mhm.
But most everyone doesn't have that overwhelming of a response where you feel relief from something that has been like a weighted blanket over your head for the past 10 years. And so for you, without an immense reward, the difficulty of eating this way, the monotony of eating this way, the isolation of eating this way is going to wear you down. And it's going to be unsustainable or sustainable at such a cost that your life has far less joy.
Mhm.
And that's a big, 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 big reason why people don't stick with this and why everyone who's tried it isn't still doing it 6 months later.
Well, and truly that in every diet, right? Like this is diet
Mhm.
culture 101. If you want to enjoy the benefits of a diet, you have to stay on that diet. And most diets are unsustainable. And I would
Mhm.
say carnivore diet is at the very tippity toppity. And like, don't confuse this. Sophia and I recommend our clients eat meat and eat likely more than they probably were when they came to us. Like,
Mhm.
we love protein sources for fertility for all the reasons Sophia's already kind of gone over so far, but we are never, I mean, I would say almost never ever going to advocate for a diet that's only animal based.
At least not long term. And I would add a caveat to what Caitlin said that if your diet's going to work, you have to stay on it. There are times where, just like I was saying with Amy Rapp's egg quality diet, that we're not intending that to be a long term lifestyle for you. That is a short term, get to the goal, get this thing fixed kind of thing. And even she says, once you're pregnant, don't keep eating this way. Like, incorporate a lot of these things. There's not a single food she recommends that you need to stop eating, and you can still eat it in large quantities, even. But
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason to continue so staunchly avoiding some of these other things that can be really nutritious and
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable. So I will say there are times, like just like an elimination diet, it's not meant to
Right.
be on forever. It's meant to either identify some of your trigger foods so that you can learn a way to eat them or avoid them so that you're not inadvertently triggering your illness at all times.
Absolutely.
Or just like what I was saying with that, you tear your ACL in your knee, you get the surgery, you go to therapy. You don't need to keep doing these little heel slides and avoiding walking up your stairs for the rest of your life after the surgery. The idea is that the therapy is getting you stronger, that you are healing and can return to your normal life.
Right.
That is a way that diets and food can be used as well as a vehicle for healing. And then once you're healed, you don't need to keep doing it this way anymore.
Or at least 100% that way. That's such a
Yeah,
great point, and I'm
exactly.
glad you explained that because I think you're right. There are therapeutic aspects of diets. We
Hmm.
even know someone jointly who just did a full month of carnivore eating
Hmm.
and had benefits from it. Um,
She was even a guest on this show at one point. I wonder if you can guess who it was.
so but I will say, from the perspective, and this is maybe a good topic shift to the second topic we're going to talk about, when we're talking about chronic health conditions and weight in that context, you're not likely to go on a diet that's going to fix that you can then go off of. Like that,
Yes.
if there's a metabolic issue that is tied to lifestyle primarily, and then you
Hmm.
change your lifestyle and the metabolic condition improves greatly, or even kind of stacks the chips a little bit in your favor so that the work you've already been doing with your diet is actually paying dividends and you're realizing
Hmm.
the benefits of, there's a real come to Jesus moment when that diet stops or that help stops because then
Hmm.
your body really does have to try and take over in this new state it's in. And that's a hard shift and usually unattainable for most people. So, we're going to take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors, and then we're going to kind of shift focus to the other metabolic hot trend from 2024 you're probably going to see more of in 2025.
Sophia here, interrupting this episode to talk about fond bone broth, tallow, and lard. So, fond bone broth has long since been a staple in my home kitchen. I use this all the time. You will always find it in my kitchen. And do you know what? I even make my own bone broth. That's how much I love fond is I pay money for something that I also regularly make for myself. It is beyond delicious. The flavors that they have in these broth, it's so deep and complex. It's not like a can of Swanson's. It's not just like the chicken and stars type flavor, though that can be delicious at times. This is such a complexity of flavor. It's almost like a beverage, and I'm not exaggerating. Plus, you can use it in cooking, everything from vegetables, starches, grains. Very, very easy way to get more collagen, protein, and minerals into your life by simply cooking with broth. It is truly delicious, and it will take any dish you use to cook with it, from just a normal dish on the table to truly gourmet. So head on over to fondbonebroth.com and use code FFF10 for 10% off your first time order. Bye.
Hey, friends, we're taking a break from our episode to talk about one of our sponsors. And this sponsor is the PCOS app. Did you know that I made an app all about PCOS? Well, I did, and you can find so many resources in it. We have slowly moved all the resources from my PCOS Hormone Academy course over into the PCOS app, and that talks about all things PCOS topically. Like if you have acne, you can go look at the skin and acne modules and see, what does Western medicine offer? Why does this impact PCOS? What can we do about it? What are natural remedies? What are nutritional remedies? We talk about hair loss and hirsutism all through that lens, where we go through, what is it? Why is it impacted by PCOS? Or why do we need to pay more attention to this particular thing? And what can we do about it? And we provide a vast resource to help you both advocate for yourself at the doctor's office and treat yourself at home naturally. Now, the exciting thing that I want to share with you is, starting in January 2025, we're starting to migrate all of the content that I have published so far on fertility into this app. I used to sell a course for $700 all about how to get pregnant with PCOS, and that is all getting moved into the app between January and March. So you can take the course as if you enrolled in the whole thing for $10 per month. So head to your app store, whether you're on a Google Android device or an Apple device. If you type in PCOS app, you just look for that really pretty lavender flower, you'll find it. Download it and join us, because you're going to get weekly recipes and all the fertility focused PCOS content that you need. It will start being uploaded under the Academy tab. So stay tuned for that. And let's get back to our episode.
Now we're going to talk about a really hot topic, super popular. You cannot open up your smartphone without seeing a news article about it, seeing somebody who's doing this thing, an ad for it. You see it literally everywhere. And we actually even already had a podcast episode where we talked about it a little bit, but we're going to expand on that even more now. And these are GLP-1 agonist medications. So this is your Wegovy, Mounjaro, Ozempic, your tirzepatide, your semaglutide. That is what we are talking about today. And that is just different brands and combinations of what is a GLP-1 like agonist medication, which is a very long thing to say. So we're just going to call it Ozempic in this episode, but please know that we're talking about this entire class of drugs.
Yeah, when you hear people talking about it, they might say GLPs or GLP-1s. These are like little receptors that your body has. And these medications work kind of in a symbiotic way to help improve satiety and help
Mm-hmm.
improve insulin resistance. And so if you're hearing satiety and insulin resistance, you probably have this like ding, ding, ding thing going off in your head that's saying, okay, well, this is probably going to help with weight. And also any type of condition that is spurred on with insulin resistance. So something like diabetes or something like polycystic ovarian syndrome, where there's such an overlap. Somewhere between 75 and 90% of people with PCOS have some measurable amount of insulin resistance. So people are actually turning to these medications and seeing weight loss, and maybe that's the intended result, but are also getting pregnant. People that have struggled with infertility for years, done loads of treatments and not gotten pregnant. I even have a client right now that's about to deliver a baby that she conceived while doing a course of weight loss on Mounjaro. So
Mm-hmm.
she came to me after pregnancy. She wasn't my client beforehand, but immediately stopped taking Mounjaro. And a huge piece of why she's pregnant, I can say confidently, is because of the weight loss and the improved insulin resistance that she saw from taking this medication.
They're powerful drugs and they have benefits. So you're kind of talking about the benefits. Why don't you keep rolling with that?
Yeah. So, you may not realize that these drugs have actually been around for a while. If you
Mhm.
like hear this tune, Ozempic, you
You
know.
know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's been around for a while. We've had GLP-1 receptor agonists since I think the early 2000s, and they were used much more exclusively in the diabetes population. And they became super popular in the recent, I would say 18, 24 months because they were approved for weight loss specifically. And actually, you can get higher doses of them for weight loss than you even can most typically for diabetes. So, when you're thinking about fertility and you're thinking about, vibrancy of life and going into fertility in your most fertile state, most people don't think about going into fertility treatments 200 pounds overweight. Um,
Mhm.
or even, many people think I want to lose weight before I conceive so that I'm not carrying a pregnancy with
Mhm.
this extra weight. And to that, I would say that's not wrong. You are going to lower risks of pregnancy related, negative outcomes. You're going to lower risks of a lot of things and actually increase your chances of getting pregnant if we can take somebody that is morbidly obese and reduce their BMI greatly. Like that is inherently true. This has become a really popular question, especially for me treating a very insulin resistant population,
Mhm.
because people are looking to it going like, I just saw my sister lose 60 pounds on this. My neighbor just lost 50 pounds on this. And I've been doing everything I can and I'm just not seeing weight loss. Like, could this drug be for me? I will say I even got a message from somebody who's in one of my courses a week ago who's like, I saw the naturopath. I've done all the things. I've eaten your diet perfectly. I've done all the supplements. I don't respond well to metformin. And so my naturopath brought up to me, should I be taking a GLP-1? And I said, no, because we're trying to conceive. And I
Mhm.
framed a conversation around, okay, here are the benefits, here are the risks. We know that you need a 90-day washout between your last dose and when you start trying to conceive again. But what I'm
Mhm.
also hearing from you is you've done everything and you feel like you are at your limit and you don't know what else to do next and you can't afford IVF or it's against your belief system. I mean, what if you took 6 months on a medication like this and had a washout? How different might that feel than doing another 9 months of exactly what you're doing and potentially not seeing any progress because you're telling me you're kind of at the end of your road of what's available to you to do. So, I'm sharing that kind of framing because I don't staunchly have negative opinions about them, and I think people
Mhm.
expect me to.
Yeah.
I don't only promote them because they have a lot of benefits for weight loss and insulin resistant improvement. There is some variability and level of like treating the individual in front of you where you have that conversation and you frame it out. What are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? It is not something I would recommend to somebody who has attempted every diet they've ever done and given up on day 2 because I will tell you
Mm-mm.
there are side effects from this medication. It's very expensive for most people, and you're not going to want to live through a month of adjusting to most of the side effects most people feel from them. You're also not going to want to take a medication that is going to cause rapid weight loss and will include weight loss of lean muscle mass at
Mhm.
like a more rapid weight or a more rapid loss of lean muscle mass than if you just diet and exercised alone. This medication makes you lose more of your lean muscle mass. So if you lose 100 pounds on this, but you end up losing much more lean muscle mass, metabolically, you're going to come off of this medication and be in a really, really compromised state. And so it really is this thing that can enhance and maybe should be considered in a small portion of the population,
Hmm.
but not as a magic shot. It's not magic.
Or a magic pill, as Johann Hari would call it, and does call it in a book he wrote about Ozempic called Magic Pill. But it's very, very true. And to say positive things about it again, um, we do live in a modern food environment that stacks the deck against you so high when it comes to losing weight. We live in an environment where it our biology plus our environment makes it really, really hard for us to lose weight. Biologically, you are here because your ancestors survived famine, period. I don't care your ethnicity. Maybe the famine was 200 years ago. Maybe it was 25 years ago. I don't really know when your ancestors were going through this, but that's the reason why you're here, is because your great great grandfather lived long enough to impregnate your great 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 grandmother. Whereas other people who aren't here, it's because they died of the famine. So our genetics, our biology is wired towards surviving famine, going as long as possible without food. That is our biology. And so you want to tell me, well, I have a family history of obesity. Yeah, it's called being human. That's what all of our bodies will do in the modern food environment. And that's what we're seeing is obesity rates going up everywhere all the time because our modern food environment is highly processed, very craveable, very low satisfying. So you want to eat more of it foods available to you very cheap all the time, available to you to soothe yourself emotionally with these foods. Are you bored? Are you frustrated? Get a little something tasty to kind of distract yourself out of that. You can't just take yourself for a spa day because that costs $300, whereas those Reese cups cost $3. So you can go do this much more accessibly than you can something else. You can't have two martinis at lunch and then go give your presentation and live your life as the mom you want to be, but you can have a pack of peanut M&Ms at lunch and still go on to give the presentation and be the mom you want to be. It is a drug. If you look at processed foods as sort of like a drug used to cope with anxiety and stress, it is highly abused in this way because our human nature reaches to these things for comfort, and we're just not designed for these things to be so accessible at all times. So, that, in my opinion, is really the issue. And this drug kind of gives you a bigger shield.
It quiets the voice.
Yes, a bigger shield or a bigger umbrella. How about this? A bigger, stronger umbrella in the rainstorm to
Mhm.
where you can make it to your destination without getting soaked and blown over.
Almost everybody that I know that's been on them says a sentence similar to, like, it's quieted the food noise. So
Oh,
people
that's so true.
that really struggle with, like, and I mean, Sophia and I talk about food all day long. We show you
Hmm.
videos of us making food. We talk about clients on, like, how to build your grocery list and what are you going to make this week?
Hmm.
And like, we're talking about food all the time. Okay, so I get it. I got food noise coming out of me. I am the microphone, right?
I am the noise.
I
Yeah.
am the noise. I'm making the noise. But, like, if you can't even finish breakfast without thinking about what's for lunch, what's for dinner, what's for the snack in between, is there a Starbucks on the way to that thing that I'm picking up that, like, if that's you, people see a lot of, it's almost like they feel like I have no willpower and then this medicine gave me willpower.
Yes. It quiets that. Have some M&Ms. No, I don't really want them. Yeah, but have them. They're right there. No, I'm not even hungry. Come on, they're going to taste so good and they're right there. No, 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 I'm trying to avoid. And you're having this conversation in the background at all times, slowly distracting you, sapping your willpower, taking away your decision making ability because you're making the same decision 50 times a minute to not eat the M&M, not eat the M&M, not eat the M&M. And it's so exhausting, and this medication mutes the desire for the M&M. you just aren't thinking about it. You don't feel like eating it. And so it's so much easier to just walk away from these things because you're just not thinking about it. And that can be so relieving for so many people. But the drawback to that, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about drawbacks yet because this probably sounds awesome.
It probably does sound awesome. But I mean, I guess I am going to bring up a drawback. I know a few people very well that are on these medications, and food kind of no longer brings them pleasure. And I don't think
Mhm.
that's great either. It's like you've swung the pendulum too far the other side, where I know that may sound relieving to you because all you ever think about is food and you treat food as like the one pleasure giving thing in your life. I get that. I've been there too. Um, but I would challenge you before you go to an extreme like this medication, go take some walks and learn how nature can give you pleasure. And I've just picked up a new exercise routine that I'm working on. And I have so much feel good hormone when I leave that I don't go home and think like I need those peanut M&Ms because I don't. I have energy without them. So I would
Mhm.
challenge you if you want to consider a medication like this that is going to be it's actually gonna pause your fertility journey completely. You shouldn't be trying to conceive while you're on them.
No, no,
I
no.
would challenge you to sustain a handful of behavior changes before you even introduce it, because the last thing you wanna do is start taking this medication and start skipping breakfast. Breakfast just
Or
doesn't sound
really
good to me
emotionally
anymore.
taking away the coping mechanism that has allowed you to make it through these difficult things you've made it through in life. I mean, the peanut M&Ms, the marshmallow, the mac and cheese, whatever, that held your hand through that pregnancy loss, through your parents' divorce, through your father's addiction, through double majoring and working in college. Like, food may have been there for you and allowed you to do all the things that your life has required of you. And you wouldn't be the person you are now for your family, for yourself, if it hadn't have been for the way that food has soothed and enabled you to make it through these difficult situations. And if you've been using food as like a crutch in that way, and so you have all this food noise, someone's about to kick that crutch out from under you. And if you do not have another way to stand, you are going to fall on your face. And this is why we see a lot of other addictions. People start getting addicted to shopping, to gambling, to pornography. They start getting addicted to substances. And we see suicide rates increase and depression greatly increase, partly because the way that this medication impacts your ability to feel pleasure in your brain. But I think due in part to the fact that this coping mechanism that has allowed you to accomplish what you've accomplished in your life is suddenly taken from you. Because if you encounter the inevitable difficult emotional situation and decide to go for the peanut M&Ms because that gives you relief, you are going to be pooping and puking and exhausted, and you are going to not only derive no pleasure from it but have very real pain from the thing that used to bring you pleasure. And that
Mhm.
is extremely traumatic when that is the coping mechanism that has allowed you to be you. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying this as like, oh, what a gross fatty. She uses these things to medicate herself. Like, dude, thank God. Okay, nobody ever crashed their car because of a peanut M&M. Nobody ever landed in jail or got in bed with a stranger because of a cheesy quesadilla crunch. Like, these coping mechanisms that you've used have probably been the safest one you could have used, but you're going to have an extremely different relationship with this food when you're on this medication. And you need to be aware of that because it's going to rock your world.
Yeah, it very much will. And make no mistake about it. If you need to lose weight while you're trying to conceive, or it's going to help improve your fertility, there are good ways to lose weight and there are bad ways to lose weight.
Oh, that is
And
so important in this
you
conversation.
don't want to undernourish, and you do not want to take a medication that's going to make it very hard for you to eat in a balanced way. So, practically, what that might look like is if you choose to go on a medication like this, revving up your dose very slowly so you can see positive behavior changes correlated with the dose that you're on, and not take steps backwards in the nutrition strides that you've made up to this point. You don't want to lose ground.
You don't want to lose ground, and you don't want to start from a depleted state. I will tell you, this is something I see so commonly. I'll have girls come to me that are on tirzepatide or semaglutide, and I'm like, okay, how long have you been on this medication? They're like, 2 months. And I'm like, okay, and this blood work I'm looking at is from when? They're like, from 3 months ago. And I'm like, okay, so you had low ferritin, low hemoglobin, low vitamin D. So you're anemic with low vitamin D, and your doctor thought eating less would be the answer? What planet are we on? Like, this is no, you can't have nutritional deficiencies measurable. Not only saying this, gals, it's almost like hard to get these diagnoses. Like, you have to be in like such a depleted state for your blood to start being messed up. Come on. Like, so many of us are walking around undernourished in ways that we can't measure on a blood test. So we're not even talking about those common deficiencies, but measurable deficiencies, anemia, low vitamin D, and you're now being put on a medication that makes you want to like sip a diet ginger ale and eat 3 peanut butter crackers and call that lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Make it make sense. That is not going to help this person whatsoever. But I see this all the time, that doctors are like, wait, your weight, it's your weight. You need to lose weight. And you may need to lose weight. Fine. Okay, whatever. Like, I'm not saying that that isn't true, but somebody who is in a deficient state, making weight loss the main goal is not, that's like somebody coming in with a gunshot wound and a sprained ankle, and you're like doing the ankle thing. Like, stop
Right.
the bleeding, for the love of God.
Right.
So you want to make sure that not only are you not going to undernourish yourself while you're on this medication, but that you're not approaching it in an you're already undernourished state and then taking this medication that makes you not want to eat nutritious foods because you have no appetite and because you have diarrhea.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, have we covered? I feel like it's like pros and cons with this, kind of like are interwoven. That
They are.
while you may have less food noise, you may not eat as much. That's the point of it. You're not going to eat as much. Do you not eat as much because you feel satiated? That's part of it. Do you not eat as much because you feel nauseous and your diarrhea is everywhere? Like, that's part of it too. You may end up constipated, but same thing. If you
Mhm.
can't go to the bathroom, you're not going to want to eat. It's like a
Yes.
feedback system that works. If you're feeling super constipated and things aren't moving, you're not going to want to eat. So we have to, if you're going to try and employ this medication, I guess this is my biggest recommendation of all. You need to work with a dietitian. Doesn't even need to be Sophia or I. You absolutely have to work with a dietitian that's optimizing your diet so that while you're losing weight, you're being nourished enough. I have somebody really close to me that literally drank a whole milk latte for breakfast for like a year and a half on this medication and saw weight loss. But I guarantee as soon as this medication is taken away from this individual, they're going to see rapid weight regain because they've lost so much muscle mass along with their weight loss. And
Yeah.
you know what's a really metabolically intense period of time in your life? Pregnancy.
Pregnancy.
Like, you don't want to go into it with a metabolism that's like a sloth, just like crawling.
Yes, because you've barely eaten for the past 18 months and you've lost all your muscle mass. So if you want to use these medications, I want to see 3 months of time where you are hitting your protein goals, you are hitting your fiber goals, you are hitting your hydration goals with ease. You
And
are
exercising.
weight training at least 4 times a week. You are
And
hitting the
walking.
weights very frequently you're getting a lot of steps in. And so if you're doing those things and we're still not seeing the weight loss that we need to have, I mean, for well over 50%, I would say probably even like 75% of people I've worked with insulin resistance, when we're hitting our protein and fiber goals, hitting our hydration goals, and doing the movement piece,
They don't need
the
medication.
Monjaro no es necesito. Like
Mhm.
their body, their metabolic system is doing the work. They're healing, they're well, and they're losing weight, and they don't even, their blood sugar's great. They don't even need these medications. And maybe we've also added in some, I don't know, some berberine. We've added in some inositol. We've sent them on over to PCOS formularies. We've given them some supplements that have stacked the deck in their favor for that as well, and they're doing great. If you've done all those things and you still have a significant amount of weight to lose that's holding you back, but you've maintained these body habits for months on end, and you want to just give yourself a little, just a little to take you over the edge. You're willing to use condoms or whatever for the next couple months, and you're at a place where you're going to take a break from trying to conceive, and you're willing to do this, and you're going to be serious about birth control. You're not going to just, be willy-nilly and see if you can just get pregnant because you really want this timeline to speed up. In those instances, this medication can be useful, but even then, it comes with substantial risks. I'm talking about not side effects. I'm not saying, oh, you're going to have diarrhea for a week. Thyroid cancer, lifelong gastroparesis. This is where your stomach becomes paralyzed and you are vomiting up the food you ate 3 days ago because it's still sitting in your stomach. I'm talking about brain shrinkage. I'm talking about osteoporosis. I'm talking about depression. These things are very real and can happen because of this medication. These are not side effects, they are risks. So, this is another reason why I'm not like, oh, try it out, see how you feel. Like, this is not a vitamin. This isn't like, oh, let me just try this and see how I feel. The risks are substantial. The side effects are substantial as well, but there are very real risks that last once you come off the medication.
Mhm.
And I want you to go into it with your eyes open and saying, yes, I may get this cancer. Yes, I may get gastroparesis. I hope to God that that doesn't happen, but I'm willing to risk that for the potential benefit of this medication.
Mhm.
And that's really the choice you're making. And that's a very real, informed conversation about risks and benefits because they're both true.
And
They both exist in the same world.
this is not a conversation you're going to get with an online doctor that you DM'd with over their like
Yeah, no,
Instagram compliant DM thing. Like you
no.
need to go talk to a doctor face to face to have these conversations. And optimally, I would argue an endocrinologist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to make sure there isn't something else underlying that can be addressed a different way that doesn't have so much freaking risk. And the benefit is real, but so is the risk. And if we can achieve some of the benefits, I mean, for almost everyone, we're not looking at a binary situation. We're not looking at fat and infertile or these drugs.
Mhm.
There are things in between that can be done. Um, and you likely fall into that in between category, but not everybody does. And so these medications, they shouldn't be demonized. They shouldn't have this stigma around them like, oh, you're cheating. Cheating who? Cheating death? Like, what am I cheating here? Like, i'm I'm doing what I need to do to get well. You wouldn't tell somebody they're cheating by taking cholesterol medication. Oh, but they also still eat cheese. They're cheating. You would never say that to them. um, but with this medication, people can often feel that way. You just have to go into it with your eyes open, very aware that you are choosing these risks as well as the benefits. Don't be a victim and go for it.
I'm going to say something super controversial.
Oh, I can't wait.
I would argue for an overweight person with PCOS, you might benefit from this and your fertility journey before I would say go try IVF. Reproductive doctors love PCOS and IVF together, and they talk about it as if it's almost a guarantee. If we do IVF, you'll get pregnant. I heard a doctor say to a client of mine last week, I can give you an 80% chance of having a baby with IVF. You know, I like I have so many thoughts, so much I want to say about that. But I would argue that for a lot of people, we need so much metabolic rehab in the general PCOS population that just fast tracking to IVF is not a solution for most of us. And doing some work on the foundational metabolic issues. If you are doing the work and it's not enough, and we add in a low dose support of one of these things, that may be enough to allow you to get pregnant naturally. Like, it may cost you more time.
And I challenge that 80% figure. I challenge that 80% figure because what you're not seeing is what Caitlin and I see, which is somebody with a cystic ovary whose metabolism is jacked down the drain, who goes on all these stim medications, and their ovaries can't respond because they're already so stimulated by all this PCOS. And I have seen with my own eyes, sisters, my own patients get ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome because they have PCOS and they're on these stim meds. And so they go through all of this, lose an ovary, and have no baby. What the hell was that for?
And spent a
When we
lot of
could have
money.
done and spent a lot of money and broken their hearts.
Or the other side of it, where maybe because they do respond so well to the medications, they have this like huge harvest, but the egg quality is not there. I've seen
Is
that a lot
due to,
too.
oh, I see that too.
I
I
get a lot
guess I
of
lump
clients
those in
that
the
are
same
like,
category.
they come to me because they did stim and they got really nothing from it.
Yeah, they got 22 eggs, which seems so great, and then none made it to blastocyst, or like one did, and they transferred it and it did nothing.
Right.
I see that too frequently. And so I would actually really agree with that, Caitlin. Like if you have PCOS and
You're being pressured.
you're being pressured to do IVF, you may want to try a few months of one of these drugs first and see how your body responds to that. And if you're able to lose the weight and have a better glucose response, a better HOMA-IR, like lower FSH, or sorry, lower LH, and better progesterone numbers after ovulation, all these things, then it could definitely be. I would say that these drugs are safer than IVF if I had to flip a coin, and say or not. I mean, give a binary response. That's a very, very good point.
Okay, well, this has been a fun welcome back to Food Freedom Fertility fresh episodes. We're so excited to have you this season, everybody. We're going to do a quick yeah, girl, and we'll leave you with excitement that we have guests like we're talking male fertility and libido this season. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about due dates, especially in the context of fertility treatments. What does the evidence say? We have so much good coming at you this season.
Really exciting experts, amazing subject matter. This is just, if you could like custom build a season for yourself, it's this season. You're going to love this.
You're going to love it.
So with that, let's do our yeah girl. Caitlin, what's your yeah girl?
My yeah girl is we over here. I just have to say, like, we did the whole Thanksgiving spiel last week. We're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
And I spatchcocked a turkey, and it was the best turkey I've ever had. It was
I think
it
she just
was
likes to say spatchcock,
I love
everybody.
saying spatchcock. But like I've done turkey a handful of times myself. Like I'm the one that's prepared it. I've spatchcocked a turkey a couple times, but like this turkey, I spatchcocked it. If you want to see me spatchcock it, I'll turn the stories I took of me last week doing it and turn it into a reel so it can live forever on my page. By the time this is out, I will do that for you all because you all need to see me spatchcock a turkey. Anyway, It was the best, and I felt so proud of it. And literally, there's almost no leftover turkey. It was that good for me to make
Wow.
anything with. So
That's a bummer in a way because I know you love that turkey pot pie.
yeah.
But, good news is you can go get another turkey for like $5 now because they're on like super sale. Yeah, girl. All righty, Brew. My yeah, girl. Oh my God, I can't believe this is real. I am so excited to say this. My 2-year-old is completely potty trained.
Amazing.
No more diapers in my house. Okay, that's not
Wow.
true because we put one on her when she goes to sleep at night. But
It's daytime.
other than that,
I feel like potty
daytime,
trained is
totally
daytime.
potty trained.
Yes.
Yes, right. A 2-year-old holding it all night, especially when she nurses before bed. Like, what are you trying to prove?
Yeah.
But the main point of this is I don't have to do poopy diapers. I don't have to deal with pee accidents, really, or pee diaper. I don't have to spend $80 a month on diapers and wipes and all of these accoutrements. I can just like leave my house with my kids and not, I mean, they need like the snacks and the water and all of the things, but I don't have to be like, what's my diaper situation? And I also don't have to be, the real win, I guess, that I'm getting at is we're not in the potty training space. Because when you're fully in diapers, look, whatever. You like get in the groove and it's not that bad. When you're fully potty trained, all the better. The in between, when you're like, they do fine when we're home and they're naked, but like when we go somewhere, they're like distracted by the fun and he's going to crap himself and then get on the slide and it's going to be the worst thing ever. And we're not in that space anymore.
I love it.
So we've got a potty trained little Jenny baby and I get to see her cute little tush in her leggings with little baby panties on. And I don't have, it's so cute. So
yeah, girls.
Huge mom win and a stress relieved from my life because
Amazing.
I knew she needed to potty train. When she was like 18 months old, I was like, this girl could probably get this. I know I should just do this. But I was like, I don't want to.
Work. You don't want to.
And when she turned 2, my oldest, I also was like, okay, when you're 2, you're done. We're done diapers. I don't care how bad the accidents are. Like we're drawing a line in the sand here because we've been sort of pussyfooting around with it for too long. And it'd been for my comfort that I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm putting a diaper on you. And so I sort of did the same thing when my baby turned 2 about a month ago. And so now we're just totally diaper free. Yes. Thank you, Lord. So diaper free, baby.
Love it. All right, guys. If you like it, love it, review it. If you want to hear yourself on Connection Corner, just put a beautiful review in there with the stars. If you're on Spotify, just give us stars all the time. Okay. So people can find us.
Star it up.
Star it up. All right. And we will see you next week.